Hi everyone! So today is the 19th of August and this is a log for my Silver Arts Award. I believe we're on Unit 2, parts C and D, but I could be wrong on that. It could be different parts, I'm not sure, but I know it's Unit 2. So let's go straight into it because I've done quite a lot since my last video log. Oh, let's skip one. So what I've done so far, I got my dad to post about the course, to advertise it basically. I got 10 people to sign up. I made and posted all of the kits with the things needed for each week. I made a spreadsheet of the resources needed and a spreadsheet of the parents' information, and I've actually run the first 2 sessions. So, advertising the course. I got my dad to post about the course on various homeschooling Facebook groups as most are parent only, so I couldn't. He posted them all together and I got 6 responses pretty much within the first couple of days. Then the responses started to slow down, so I got him to repost them on the same groups a few days later until I reached 10 responses, meaning that I didn't have to put up any posters in the local area as I got all the responses online and pretty quickly. You can see here he just wrote out a thing about what it is, and then this is what I'd written out and put on there as well. So the confirmation email that I sent once people had signed up, basically just confirming it, like in the name. Just thank you for your response. I'm excited that your child's joining the course. If you've purchased a kit, I let them know about that. If you've not, then I'll send a list of resources. And I told them to get in touch with me if they had any questions. So that was just a confirmation email that I sent everyone once they'd filled out the sign-up sheet. The kits. So this is just a picture of one of the kits I made that got sent out. I know it's not a great picture because kind of stuff's on top of each other, but I think it's clear enough. So you can see like week 1, week 2 is over under the package over there, week 3, week 4, and then you can see like the sea glass, that's the bag of bird food, wrong way. The PVA glue, the Mod Podge, there's like the paintbrush. That's one of the ones as well. You can see it's like pipe cleaners and felt and buttons and stuff. So I just basically, what I did was for the kits, I put everything into bags with the weeks, and then stuff that you need for multiple weeks or wouldn't go in the bag, like had its own bags, like the bird food and the sea glass, I just labelled them. Or like the bird food, I didn't bother labelling because I think it's quite self-explanatory what it is. And then there's just a few other bits like the PVA glue and the paintbrush we needed for multiple weeks, so I didn't want to put them into a specific week, obviously. And that's just kind of the kit. I did do a video, but it wouldn't let me upload it on my laptop, so I can't upload it, I'm afraid. Oh, it keeps skipping when I try and go through. Okay, so my spreadsheets. So I made a spreadsheet with basically all of my information needed. So with the parents' names, their emails, phone numbers, addresses, if they wanted a kit, if I'd sent them a confirmation email yet, if they've paid for their kit, and if I'd sent them a list of resources needed. I obviously can't share that spreadsheet on here just because it's got lots of like confidential information, I suppose. And then I also made one with all the resources needed, which I can just share on here. And I'm not the greatest at spreadsheets, this is just kind of what it looked like, and I sent that out to all the parents. So other emails that I sent. So this one I sent once everyone had signed up. Basically, this is just one email on here. I just had to split it into different parts because it wouldn't let me copy and paste it, so I just took screenshots of it. So I just explained all the kits been posted and when they should arrive, and then once they'd arrived what they needed to do. They needed to like take the lid off the glue and things like that. And then if you've chosen not to purchase a kit, the resource needed a link below, and then that's just the link to my spreadsheet. I then also put, if the link doesn't work, then I put a picture of the spreadsheet on here, the picture I just showed you. And I said they can email me if anything needs explaining in more detail. I then just spoke about the price per kit, and I put the payment information there where they could pay for it. And then a few people had emailed me asking for reminders on the course dates, so I put that there just in case. I explained how I'm skipping the 31st of August because it's a bank holiday and I'm away. And then I put about here, I'm sending out the link to the lessons on the Saturday or Sunday before the first lesson. I didn't attach it to this email because I wanted to send it out once everyone had paid for their kits. So I knew if they'd gotten a kit, If they'd gotten a kit, then they'd paid for it, then I'd send it out. Otherwise, I was a bit worried about people not paying for their kits. I didn't think it would happen, and it didn't, which I'm very glad for, because obviously, like, it would have been a bit tricky if not. But I spoke to my dad about it, and he said to do that to prevent it, basically. And then I just put on there, hope it answers any questions. Feel free to ask me any questions. I explained how I was away without my phone. And then I basically just wrote out what I'd kind of call a bit like a terms and conditions almost, which you can see all of on here. Basically, I just explained how I tried to help every child, but it might be a bit tricky over the screen. I put how they should be with their child throughout the whole of the lessons to help if needed, and so their child can make the most of each lesson. I explained how, because it's kind of 6 to 10-year-olds, I've tried my best to make sure it's appropriate level of difficulty, but some of the children might find some of them a bit tricky, and some of them may find it a little bit easier, so some might require more help than others, especially when I do the next 2 sessions, which kind of require tying knots and stuff with string. I also then just put a thing about how we're using glass, so just watch whilst they do that and be careful with it. I've only sent the required amount per kit, so I just put they should be really careful with the kits and make sure nothing gets lost, just so they don't lose things and so they have everything. I put about how it might be messy because we're using glue and Mod Podge and things like that. And then I just put on the bottom, please remember you're responsible for your child during the lessons. And I just thought I'd kind of do that just to kind of cover me, and so all the parents and I are kind of on the same page and they understand how it's running, because obviously I'm not a professional teacher or anything like that, and it's online, so I can't obviously watch all the children and things like that. And then I just put how I can't wait to get started. Basically, that was the email I sent. I just sent out a big email about everything. This is just one email, I hope that's clear. And then after I'd sent that email, I went away to my camp for a week. So I was away for a week, and then when in the middle of it, I got my phone back, and only 2 people had paid so far. So I thought I'd send another one in case people hadn't received that email. So I just put on here reminding people to pay, and if that their kit hadn't arrived, to let me know as soon as possible, because they should have all arrived by then. Because I thought if people hadn't paid yet, it might be because their kits haven't arrived, because I said feel free to pay once your kits arrive, so they feel safe. Not safe, but they feel more comfortable with me and trustworthy almost. And then below I just attached what I just read, the same email. So, running the sessions. So I was a bit nervous, understandably, before running the first session, because I've never really taught children like that, and I obviously wasn't sure what to expect. But I think it went pretty well. It didn't take as long as I thought it would, and we finished about 25 minutes early, so I think I could have kind of planned my time better. But it's quite tricky because hopefully the next 2 weeks, I think they're going to take a little bit more explaining, especially the final one with like lots of tying knots and binding the books and stuff. They might take more explaining. So I wasn't sure on the times. I put from 4:30 to 5:30, but obviously it finished about 25 minutes early, so we did finish quite early on the first one. And then the second one, we finished about quarter of an hour early again. However, I did get some really good feedback from the children after. I just asked the children if they'd all enjoyed it, and they all seemed to really enjoy it. And the parents, some of them emailed me saying how much their child enjoyed it, which I'll share in the slide in a minute. However, one thing that surprised me a bit, only 5 of the children attended, which I was definitely a bit confused about, because 10 people had signed up and 7 had purchased kits. Now I understand obviously stuff happens, especially when it's a free course, there's not very much commitment there. Obviously the other 2 families that had purchased kits, I thought they might say attend because they spent £20 on the kit, say, but obviously life happens, and it was really good weather on the first day, so I think people went different places instead. Like someone emailed me after saying really sorry you've missed it because they went to the zoo, which is completely fine. Like obviously I don't mind, but I thought I'd just mention that in there, how I had 10 people sign up but then only 5 attend. And then the same amount of children showed up the second week. I thought maybe just the first week was like the first week, But the same amount showed up the second week, and I made sure during the lesson to check my email in case people were having trouble accessing the Google Meet link. But no one was. So yeah, I was a little bit confused on that. But like I said, I guess because it was free, there's not that much commitment, and also people had chosen not to purchase a kit, and then they'd seen the list of resources. Some of them were quite specific or quite a lot of things needed, say, so it might have been a bit tricky. So some of the feedback and pictures. Now I really love seeing all the pictures. This is one that someone sent to me of their cat that they did in our sea glass one, of their cat called Cherry Pie, which I thought was really sweet. And I think it's really fun kind of seeing all of the children's work and knowing that they're like enjoying it and things like that. And then this is another one someone sent to me, and I just want to mention, obviously they said I could use all of these in my project and stuff like that, but I made sure no one's names or faces besides mine were on there. So like I covered up all of the faces on there as well. That was me. I look very teachery, my dad said. And then this was of the first week doing the pressed flower jars. And then this was some feedback that people sent. So they said their child Clara really enjoyed taking part. And then they thanked me for today and said it's really special that a young person's leading the session and that their child was really enjoying it. Which I think is really nice to know that there's like positive feedback there. So some unexpected problems that I faced. So I faced two kind of bigger problems that I didn't expect would happen, but I thought I'd share about them here and how I resolved them. So on the sign-up sheets, someone typed their email in wrong. So when I tried to email them with the confirmation email, it just bounced back. And I had no other way to contact them because I showed you my sign-up form last week. The only way I could contact them was email. So I got my dad to edit all of the Facebook posts, which took forever, and asked if anyone had signed up with their name and didn't receive a confirmation email yet. But no one sadly responded. And then to prevent this from happening again, I added a spot for phone numbers in case of things like this and like emergency contact needed and stuff like that. So I could still contact them just in case someone typed in their email wrong. So that was a bit of a shame for the person who didn't get a confirmation email, but they didn't see the Facebook post after, which is a bit of a shame. But that's what I did to prevent that from happening again. So one of the second problems I ran into is one of the kits got lost in the post. So the person that didn't receive their kit was thankfully very understanding and offered to buy their own resources for the first session, as another kit wouldn't send in time as I didn't receive their email until 3 days before the first session. So I offered to send them another kit with all of the resources needed for the other weeks after that, but they declined, saying that it's no problem and that they'll find their own things instead. And obviously it's a bit of a shame because I did lose the money for that kit, but that's just kind of some of the things. Like that was when I planned these sessions, obviously that was a risk I was taking, and obviously buying all of the things, I wasn't sure how many people would want kits anyways. So my thoughts and future plan from now on. So I think the sessions are going well and all the children seem to be enjoying them, definitely. I've been asked at the end of the sessions if the children are enjoying them, and they all seem to say yes and nod their heads and that they're enjoying the sessions. So both have finished, both sessions both have finished a bit early, so I think I could have said they would last about 45 minutes instead, as that would have been kind of a perfect amount of time instead of an hour. However, I spoke to my dad about this, and he said that if all children would attend, they will probably take an hour, as I'd be explaining more to each child individually, which I think is a very fair point. Obviously, with only 5 children, there's a lot less to explain individually than with 10. If they were all asking questions, it would take me longer to explain. So I'm going to continue to run my final 2 sessions, and I've just finished making the PowerPoint for them actually. I just need to do the final PowerPoint, but I've made the PowerPoint for week 3 now. And then after that, I will send out some feedback sheets, like proper ones, so I can get more thoughts once the sessions are finished. And then that's it for my Arts Award. So that's it for today. I think I got through that quite speedy, which is good. So I'll see you in the next video, and wish me luck for my kit, my next sessions. Thank you.